Hello, hockey fans of all ages, shapes, and sizes. I have a quick one here on my solution for the Leafs woes up front. And what would that be? So, a few things went into this. When I look at guys like Knies, etc., sophomore, I guess maybe it's his rookie, sophomore season, whatever. He played a little bit in the playoffs last year, got a taste. And these guys are full of piss and vinegar when they come out of NCAA or U.S. development programs, etc., or the WHL, the OHL, CHL, and a whole QJMHL, I think it's called. Sorry. The Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. Yeah, there we go. So, yeah, like these guys play around probably 60% of what an NHLer. So there's a lot that goes into being a pro, right? And I look at the lines, and I was listening to Chris Versteeg, who's won a couple Stanley Cups with the Blackhawks, and him and JD Bunkus back and forth. And I agree with a lot of their points. And it made me think. I was already thinking about this a little bit on making a note of the Leafs lines, etc. Um, and whatnot. But the main thing for me is that Tavares and Willie play really well together. Marner and Matthews play really well together. So Keefe, by definition, has never broken these guys up or whatever. You got guys like Domi and Bert who are on 1 year kind of mercenary deals. I liked, I think Kipper or somebody said that, maybe JB said mercenary deal, which I really like that term. They're on a 1 year deal trying to prove themselves, and they're wondering, like, I've already posted on this, like, do they feel like they're an actual Leaf yet, etc. So you're coming up to the playoffs here. You want to make a rush into the All-Star break, and I see a couple sides of the equation here, right? Like, if they're going to make a move at coach, being Treliving and Shanny, who has a large say with the board, etc., on the players. So if they're not going to change that up, the coach is going to be the default thing. Now, I like Keefe as a person. I happen to think he's a great coach. I think he's not really confident in sticking to his guns sometimes, which could lead to a guy like Berube or Patrick Waugh or something like that being a coach that is firm in their stance. Like, if you look at, I think Keefe is like a player's coach. You hear like Pat Quinn was always like a player's coach kind of guy, and it can go so far, but you got a guy like Torts who has this exterior hard shell like a gobstopper that he's a bit of an a-hole in the media, but I've heard he's such a great guy with his players, and you love him or hate him. And I've had coaches like that growing up in St. Thomas minor hockey, etc. Different dads come in and they favor certain players or whatever, and maybe not. Maybe they don't even favor their own kid. Like one coach, I think, said to their kid, "Yeah, you're not playing this year," or whatever. So, anyways, yeah, it takes all types. And when Versteeg was saying that these guys don't have roles, I look at that and, like, just speaking to Knies and some of these other guys that are in the AHL kind of coming up, like Bobby McMahon, et cetera, their schedules are a lot lighter. They don't practice and play and travel like pros per se. Like, they're more divisional, like the regional area that they play for the most part, et cetera. Maybe a more favorable schedule, et cetera. So you're looking at like 60% capacity until you make it to maybe your fourth, fifth, sixth year when guys really come into their prime, right? So a lot of this I'm basing on that. And you look at guys like Bertuzzi and Domi trying to win contracts. So this probably sounds a little bit weird or maybe backhanded or whatever. But I think like about Matthews and Marner, right? So Marner is such an elite playmaker, and with a goal scorer. And a lot of people say, hey, like, based on salary cap, and this is how you can kind of, massage the salary cap or whatever. And often it drives what lines have chemistry, which is silly. And that's what I mean by that. So, like, a guy like Marner, plays with Matthews, and you could say both to either side. Like, is Matthews as great without Marner? Is Marner as great without Matthews scoring, like, off his passes, right? So does Marner have all these points if he is not on the top line all these years? Willie jumped out of the gate in the second line. He has good chemistry with Tavares, who's cooled off, which could explain why Willie has cooled off. So I want to say this, that Bert kind of feels a little bit lost maybe, and Domi's kind of stuck on the third line, which I think it's time for a promotion for some of these guys. And what I mean by that is I think the top line to me is you put Marner on the line with, the top, I'll just say it. So the top line for me is Tavares on left wing, Matthews at center, Willie on right wing. The second line to me is Bert, Domi, and Marner. So what you have with both lines is you have goal-scoring punch, you have a lot of grit and playmaking, etc. And I believe Tavares is a two-way guy. He's a bit slow, but his defense is underrated. And what do you lose when you take Marner off of Matthews on the top line? You lose that defense, right? So when they put Marner back on against Edmonton and they're doing all these draws against, McDavid, Draisaitl, etc., and you're trying to put guys like Holmberg, and it's great to give guys a shot. Like, he scored a great goal against San Jose, kind of coming down the wing, power forward move, and like flick of his stick over the glove. So things like that, I think you got to give guys a chance in the regular season. It's a time to play around a little bit. But as Versteeg, I want to hammer home this point of the roles. So when you got guys like Domi and Bertuzzi who feel a little bit lost on different lines, put those guys together. I believe they'll have great chemistry with Domi at center, Bert on left, and Marner on right. And you got that London Knights connection there. And then to me, it's like the third and fourth line, bring Reavo back. The guy is sat enough. You need that energy line and that grit line. So, like, I would say McMahon has impressed me a lot. And you need those guys. Like, I think Gregor is a solid third line guy and not a fourth line guy for me. Like, even maybe Gregor and Reavo go together pretty well because they're both, like, Gregor's super fast and he likes to hit. Reavo can drop the gloves, Gregor can drop the gloves, and, McMahon maybe. But I look at some of these guys, like, what do you want out of your third line? You mostly want, like, a defensive stalwart. So I think Gregor has defensive chops. Like, I think his defense is a little bit underrated because he's so fast, he can back check so quickly to get back on guys. And what makes defense look really good is back checkers, right? So when I think and selfishly, I kind of wanted Nylander. I really wanted Nylander in San Jose for a blockbuster trade, maybe with Couture and Ferraro. I still think potentially Couture at the deadline to the Leafs or Ferraro at the deadline to the Leafs could really shore up their third line. Like, let's say you're going those two lines, as I mentioned. If you got a third line, like Couture, I'm surprised he hasn't been in the Selke trophy more often. I think just Bergeron all those years, etc. But these two-way guys, I think, are so underrated as far as making your defense look better and your goalies look better. So when your forwards are checked out and they're not back checking, your defense look worse and your goalies look worse. And in the case of San Jose Sharks, their defense have been standing on their head, but the high danger chances of, like, in the slot, opportunities from the high points, etc., where your offensive guys should be back checking and covering, the transition game, etc. And I want to drop a kind of a wow point that, to me right now, Nathan MacKinnon is the best player in the world. Shock factor. I think he's playing better than McDavid, and you always look at these guys that. I believe the traditional look was, okay, when Sid came into the lead, he's the best guy in the world, even over Ovi, etc., because reasons, right? So I think that to me, MacKinnon, he's a powerhouse. He's skating like as fast as I've ever seen. He's completely dominating the play. I think he's a lock for the MVP of the league, and I believe he is truly the best player in the world right now, and that is over McDavid. So I know that both good Canadian boys, maybe they'll have a chuckle if they saw that. I'm sure, like, McKinnon's competitiveness is insane, and he has a cup too, right? So obviously Makar was a huge part of that cup. And when you have a huge playmaking defenseman, which I think the Leafs are truly lacking, and that's why they pursued Carl, they would have probably had to give up too much, and that's why Pittsburgh, I think, if Pittsburgh is a seller at the deadline, it'd be crazy to see like maybe Letang or somebody come to the Leafs. That'd be completely nuts, or any one of the guys. But I think they're stuck with their core over there with Dubas. And it seems like Shanny likes the core. He wants to prove that it can be a winner. And I think, what do you do in this situation? Literally just stack your top two lines. So it's like complete powerhouse. I don't know how any team could contend against that. And you put your guys that play, your sophomores, your junior guys coming up from the AHL that are used to 60% of the schedule, they'll play less minutes per night. So out of this, as a result, you get more minutes for Domi, more minutes for Bert, hearsay, but more opportunities because they got a great playmaker like Marner on that line. Domi can drive the play. And if you have Tavares, Matthews, and Nylander, I think that'll spark Tavares' confidence because he's a world-class playmaker. Seems to have lost, as I mentioned, like his skating is slowing down, but he can be a playmaker and goal scorer. If he parks himself in front of the net and gets those greasy goals like Pavelski always does, or he gets on his tipping game, like Pavs is probably the best tipping shot tipper in the league. So there's things that Tavares can do to mature and play out the rest of his career successfully, and like a fine wine like Joe Pavelski, one of my favorite players too, by the way. So, anyways, that's it for today. Here's hoping the Leafs can channel some of that and rearrange their lines. I think if they don't. I just go back to Treliving saying we're not a core four, we're a Leafs team, and Versteeg talking about the roles. I totally agree. The roles, give the guys the roles, and the third and fourth line will be playing, 10 minutes or 6 minutes on average, and then your top guys are playing 20 minutes. That goes towards their contracts and stuff next year, etc. And you're getting full use out of all your guys. Just completely stack those lines, and then you know what? Maybe come playoff time, guys like Knies, etc., that if he's on the third line or fourth line, maybe he rises to the occasion. Like maybe you call up Mintz or Cowan for the playoffs, and when their season's over, and these guys are shot out of a cannon. So I think some of these things can temper expectations for the younger guys, give the true pros their minutes, their 20 minutes a game. Bring these guys up and teach them, maybe give the third and fourth line situational, give guys a role. Like for Steve, I just keep hammering home this point that he said that I completely agree with on the roles is give these guys a role and they'll play hard for the coach. And if Keefe does this soon enough, I think he's got his job and they might win the cup. I still keep thinking that all the years that we were hot on the Leafs and they're going to win. This year, everybody's against them. So it would be the opportune time for them to actually win it all. Peace.